The Colorado Buffaloes are officially ranked as the number 20 team in the college football playoff rankings. What does that mean for their chances of crashing the college football playoff?
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? This is Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borba. You could start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $100 and $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. We are also brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcast. So thank you guys for tuning in and making me your first listen of the day. Let's talk about it. The Colorado Buffaloes came in as the number 20 team in the college football playoff, but what does that mean for their chances? What does that mean for their overall rankings? Well, for starters, I think it means that we could tell that the playoff committee respects and values Colorado more than the voters of the AP poll, which is the media. The AP poll had Colorado one spot lower. Not the biggest difference, but still, there was a discrepancy. There wasn't that many changes within the top 12 as a whole for the college football playoff. The only difference was Georgia and Ohio State were flipped. So one of them had Georgia number 2, the other one had Georgia number 3, but nothing too crazy at the top. But where things got interesting, in my opinion, is Colorado's spot specifically, and then the teams that they're ranked around. And so I want you guys to sort of understand that regardless of where Colorado ranks at this moment, doesn't mean that they can't continue to ascend up, right? I think that's kind of my biggest takeaway right now is Colorado still benefited greatly from their bye week, right? They moved up a couple spots. They moved up enough to sort of be in the mix, right? There's 12 teams getting to the playoff, and so right now Colorado's at number 20. So a handful of the teams in front of them are going to lose and get eliminated, right? And a handful of teams behind them are fighting for their lives as well. So Colorado's in a really good spot. I think they have a very manageable schedule. I'm going to share my screen so that way we could go over the rankings and as a group, as a family. So here are the top 25 rankings as we just learned about a few minutes ago. So it goes Oregon number 1, Ohio State number 2, Georgia 3, Miami 4, Texas 5, Penn State 6, Tennessee 7, Indiana 8, BYU, who is currently ranked first in the Big 12 and one of Colorado's competitors in contending for that Big 12 title spot. Number 9, Notre Dame at 10, Alabama at 11, Boise State at 12, SMU at 13, Texas A&M at 14, LSU 15, Ole Miss 16, Iowa State 17, Pitt 18, Kansas State 19, then it's Colorado, Washington State, Louisville, Clemson, Missouri, Army. So, what a mouthful that was. I'm just going to keep this up in the background. You guys could kind of see it. Oregon's cut off a little bit, but who cares about Oregon, right? The Colorado Buffaloes, I think they have a great chance to get in, right? They have a great chance to make some noise if things go their way. I kind of have been talking about it. Colorado needs to win out. Obviously, that's a given. Secondly, they need some things around them to happen. And so I wanted to sort of at least bring that up with you guys again, because I don't want everyone thinking that I'm against Colorado making it. I think Colorado has a legitimate shot to make it. I think their chances get really difficult if they don't win the Big 12 title game. And there's a chance that Colorado doesn't even get to play in the Big 12 title game because Iowa State and BYU are both ranked ahead of them in the Big 12 standings. So if things don't work in Colorado's favor, they could just awkwardly be sitting there with a 10-2 record and no conference title game to play for, because it goes BYU, they're 5-0, Iowa State's 4-1, and then Kansas State's 4-2. Iowa State does play Kansas State, so Kansas State could eliminate them in favor and help Colorado out. That'd be great, right? But yeah, I think this was a really interesting rankings. I think what we learned, and I'm going to get to my bigger takeaways a little bit later, but I think we learned that the big brands are always going to get the most respect. And I feel like that's fairly obvious, right? You look at just sort of the top few teams and it's like, okay, Ohio State, sure, they deserve number 2. Miami, Texas, Do they really deserve the 4 and 5 spot? I feel like both teams have struggled, kind of limped their way through this part of the season, right? Miami's been on upset alert multiple times. Texas hasn't beaten a quality opponent in quite some time. And both of their biggest wins, Michigan and Oklahoma, neither of those teams are ranked. They've been on a tear of beating backup quarterbacks, third string quarterbacks who aren't that good. In Tennessee, I honestly, good defense, haven't loved what I've seen from their offense. So I don't really know what the committee sees in a lot of these teams. But then again, it's not my job to pretend like I'm the committee member. Like, if it was up to me, I don't know how I would do it. I think there'd be a lot of factors, and I think I'd probably differ a little bit. But if you're Colorado, one, this shows how far this program has come under Deion Sanders. This program 2 years ago went 1-11. They were storming the field because they won one game. This program last year was 4-8. It was clear that they had the wrong coaches. They had the wrong systems in place. They didn't have the right players to execute what Deion Sanders wanted. And now we're talking about them as legit college football playoff contenders. What a 2-year turnaround for Deion Sanders in Colorado, and they're still not done yet. If everything goes to plan, this Colorado team can make some major noise in the college football playoff. We just got to see if everything goes to plan. When we come back, I'm going to be talking about Colorado's path to the college football playoff because there is one. It's just not going to be as easy as most would have hoped because obviously there's a lot of teams in the mix. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at Roy. Hey, Locked on Buffs fans, it's time to recognize the Roy Player of the Week. So far this season, we've pulled over $20,000 to support players on Roy. Micro deposits lead to massive change. With the Roy app, you can direct your support to the athletes you love, ensuring that all funds go to the specific player you choose. Unlike collectives, you know exactly where your support is going, and you even receive exclusive content like personal videos and updates after the season. The best part, it's risk-free. If the athlete transfers or doesn't deliver on the content, you get your money back. This week, I'm supporting a player that didn't go to Colorado or doesn't play for Colorado anymore, but because Colorado didn't have a game, I had to go somewhere else, and I'm going with Jordan Tyson. I just pitched $100, and I'd love for you to join me. Even $10 makes a difference. Let's show Jordan Tyson, Travis Hunter, and other players that I've picked as my Roy Players of the Week the love and keep them connected to their school because remember, pay today, celebrate tomorrow. Your support sets your team up for success. Jordan Tyson just cracked the 1,000 receiving yard mark for Arizona State. Glad to see he's doing well at his new home. Plus, don't miss out on Roy's exciting giveaway. Win 2 tickets to a game in November. Just download Roy, create an account, and enter referral code Locked On, and you're entered already on Roy. Any contribution to an athlete's campaign also gets you entered automatically. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Download Roy now and join the NIL game with no subscription and no fees. And be sure to check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and X at Roy_return on you for more information. Roy, support the players, change the game. This episode of Locked on Buffs is also brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. FanDuel is the best place to get in on the action. Get ready to tackle that NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. What is up? Locked on Buffs here. Kevin Borba, if you guys don't know me, appreciate all you guys for tuning in. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow. I appreciate you guys for making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to comment below if you're new to the show so I can say what's up to you. And make sure to stick around. We're going to be talking about Colorado's path to the playoff. I think it's pretty straightforward in the sense of, one, you got to win out, right? Colorado has 4 games remaining. I think I'm going to pick them to win every single game, barring a catastrophic injury, which, knock on wood, doesn't happen. But I think that would be the only reason I wouldn't pick Colorado to win every game. I like their chances against Texas Tech. I think they'll probably beat Utah by 20 points. Same thing with Kansas, and Oklahoma State isn't the same team we saw last year. So I think they're going to win out. That's the easy part, if you will, in terms of the college football playoff path for Colorado. You look at the teams that are ahead of them, and you need quite a few things to happen. For Colorado to get in, they need to be one of the top, or they need to be one of the top 12 teams. But realistically, if you don't win your conference, which that'd be the easy one for Colorado, win the conference, right? But for that large bid, here's what they need to happen. Alabama and LSU, they both play, right? Obviously, one of them is going to get eliminated with that third loss. You need another one to lose. You need Notre Dame to lose because Notre Dame comes in at number 10 at 7-1. And I think with a second loss, Notre Dame's first loss to Northern Illinois is just too disgusting, too bad, too ugly for them to even stay in the mix. So you need Notre Dame to lose. You need Alabama or LSU to lose that third game. Ole Miss needs to lose that third game. Texas A&M needs to lose that third game. So right there, you're eliminating 5 teams. Iowa State and Kansas State, obviously they play against each other. You need Kansas State to win, but you cannot drop a game, obviously, because in Colorado, like I've said, Colorado would be out of the playoff. Kansas State needs to beat Iowa State, so that way Colorado can jump Iowa State in the standings. And then also, it wouldn't hurt for BYU to lose a couple games. It wouldn't hurt for a team like maybe Penn State, who hasn't looked that good, to lose a game. Because at the end of the day, Colorado needs the most chaos. The easiest path, like I keep saying, is for them to win the Big 12. Right now, they are on the outside looking into the Big 12 title game. There's a world where BYU wins out and Iowa State wins out and Colorado wins out. And it's like, okay, well, Colorado has one conference loss and Iowa State currently holds a tiebreaker. So it's like, better luck next year, and that's not going to work for Colorado fans, right? We don't want to see Colorado get left out of the playoff like that. So, in terms of BYU and Iowa State, I think BYU's most losable game remaining on the schedule is against Arizona State. They have to go to Tempe on the road, and around Thanksgiving, Tempe's going to get wild. I think Arizona State, if you guys didn't know this, is one of the premier, if not the premier party school. And I feel like that program has just been looking for a reason to party around football. And their football team being good and contending for the Big 12 title, that could reinvigorate that program quite a bit. So if they get BYU to come to town and they're able to beat them, right, I think the fans would go absolutely ballistic. In terms of Iowa State, I think they have a couple of losable games, right? I think they could lose to Cincinnati, and I think they could lose to Kansas State. It doesn't matter who they lose to. Colorado just needs them to drop one more game because then they would have 2 losses, and Colorado would sneak on up there and be second in the Big 12 standings, which for those of you who aren't really familiar with the Big 12 right now, it's anyone's ballgame, right? It's a coin flip. Every single week there's chaos. Last week specifically, we saw just how hectic it could get. We saw just how, I don't know, it's weird to say like we learned this about the Big 12, but we've always known this. It's just this past week was a prime example of it. So here's all of the games. Texas Tech beats Iowa State by 1 point. Texas Tech's not a bad football team. I think if they get the offense going, they could probably get into a shootout and take down anyone, Colorado included, right? If Texas Tech is able to attack the passing or the secondary and it's working, they're going to be hard to get off the field. They also have a really good running back in Taj Brooks that is going to make things difficult. But yeah, I wouldn't be shocked if Texas Tech surprises some people. Kansas State loses to Houston. Houston was viewed as one of the worst teams in the country. But little do people realize they have the number 2 recruiting class in the Big 12, not the country, excuse me. And I think they're approaching a top 25 class if they're not there already. Arizona State just absolutely blew Oklahoma State out of the water in Stillwater. Arizona got demolished by UCF. And then Baylor has been on a great run as of late. Dave Aranda went from on the hot seat to 1 win away from making a bowl game. And this is the Baylor's remaining schedule. West Virginia, Houston, which I mean, better than most people want to give credit for, and Kansas. So this Baylor team ended up being really good as well. So Colorado, like I keep saying, they have a path. They have to handle business, though. Just because you are in the playoff doesn't mean the job is done. And I think Deion Sanders and company are really going to emphasize that because it's like, hey, great accomplishment for now, but this wasn't our ultimate goal to be in the first college football playoff rankings. No one cares about that. At the end of the day, we will move on from these rankings next Monday or next Tuesday, excuse me, when the new rankings drop. Like every week, there's going to be new rankings. The only rankings that matter are the final ones. And whether or not Colorado's in that one depends on how well they do. They have to win convincingly, like I should have been saying. They need to win convincingly. And they need some other programs, like I mentioned earlier, to start falling, start taking some dives and some hits, right? This Colorado has a tough path to the playoff, but they have one. Don't let people convince you otherwise. When we come back, I'm going to be talking about my biggest takeaway, excuse me, and why I think the College Football Playoff Committee is still a little bit biased towards the Blue Bloods and biggest brands of college football. This episode of Locked on Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at ZBiotics. ZBiotics Pre Alcohol Probiotic Drink is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this product down. Just remember to make ZBiotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Here's how to use it. Step 1, before you go out, before you have a rage or you tailgate or whatever, drink your prebiotic, drink your pre-alcohol. For the best results, make sure pre-alcohol is your first drink of the night. Step 2, drink responsibly. Pace yourself, hydrate, and get a good night's sleep. And then step 3, enjoy tomorrow. Wake up feeling refreshed and ready to take on the day. Go to zbiotics.com/LockedOnCollege, learn more, and get 15% off your first order. And when you use Locked On College at checkout, ZBiotics is backed with 100% money back guarantee. So if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund you your money back. No questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/LockedOnCollege and use code LockedOnCollege at checkout for 15% off. What is up, everybody? Thank you guys for tuning in to Locked On Buffs, making your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Sorry, today's episode was a little late. I just wanted to do it centered around the college football playoff because why the hell not? I knew Colorado was going to be in it. And I was like, we got to talk about this. We gotta get this right. So my biggest takeaway from the first rendition of the college football playoff rankings is that it's kind of weird how it's all about supposedly not everyone's supposed to have a shot. Like that's not the point. That's kind of the point of this, but that's not the main goal. It's supposed to be clear, not biased. And I think right now, if the playoff stands as it is right now, they're setting the precedent that the Big 12 is only going to get one team in. For instance, BYU came in at number 11. They have more top 25 wins, which is 2, than the 4 teams ranked ahead of them have combined. Indiana, Tennessee, Penn State, Texas. Texas has a loss ranked ahead of them. Indiana hasn't played anyone. Have they looked really good and have they been blowing teams out of the water? Yes, I'm not going to take that away from them. But I'm not liking this precedent that the Big 12, that the College Football Playoff Committee is setting about the Big 12. Because if, say, BYU wins the conference over Iowa State and Colorado wins out, they're already laying the groundwork to be like, sorry. You know, we value these other teams, right? We value these teams that are in these conferences. Like this was my fear with conference realignment is are they picking the best teams or are they picking the teams that come from a certain conference? Is it the SEC, the Big Ten? Those are my sort of concerns, right? Another thing that I noticed, the Blue Bloods that don't really deserve, I won't say they don't deserve to be in this, but BYU is at 9. I think I said 11. The Blue Bloods that don't really deserve to be as high as they are they skating off the merit of their brand? Or are they sort of, I don't know, are they, like, did they deserve it? I don't know. Like, here's some of the teams that I felt were ranked a little bit high and maybe shouldn't have been ranked that high. Texas A&M, LSU. I think Texas A&M just got embarrassed. They just got shown, like, they literally were just shown that they can't throw the football. LSU has collapsed. Another team that I'm not super high on, Penn State and Tennessee. Penn State had one big test this year, and they blew it, right? The score, I think, was closer than the actual game itself. Ohio State dominated that game. Like, why is Penn State currently number 6? Why is Tennessee, who has, I think, outside of beating Alabama, skated through a fairly easy schedule. Why are they ranked so highly? They haven't looked good doing it. Like, what is up with all these programs where it's like, okay, are we giving them the benefit of the doubt? Is there something that I'm personally not seeing? Like Miami at 4. Has Miami really been the 4th best team in college football, or do they just have a 9-0 record? I don't think they've been the 4th best team in college football. Indiana, again, strength of schedule is terrible. It's atrocious. They're in the hundreds. Notre Dame, they lost to Northern Illinois, and while you don't want the very first game of the season to dictate your season, join a conference, right? You would have more chances to sort of combat that. And then this is a team at the bottom of the rankings, 24 Missouri. Missouri's looked terrible. Clemson, same thing. They haven't looked very good. So I don't understand why the Big 12 isn't getting the respect it deserves. You guys comment below. Is the Big 12, are they disrespecting the Big 12? Am I reading too much into it? Let me know what you think. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. I will see you guys tomorrow morning, as usual, and we'll be talking more about Texas Tech, the game that we have coming up. I'm going to be doing a crossover with the Locked On Texas Tech guys. It's going to be awesome. You guys won't want to miss it. Hope everyone has a great night.